The mantra for successful communication. The true art of conversation has to do with speaking as well as listening. It is like a tennis match where each person gets his turn to give something to the other and receive something back in return. It is thus important sometimes to stop speaking and play the role of a good listener. Ways to communicate more effectively with customers and coworkers. Here are some tips on how you can communicate more effectively with people at work, irrespective of whether they are customers, co workers, subordinates, or superiors, as communication plays an equally important role in our careers. Be careful about interrupting others, particularly while interacting with your customers. They'll be especially upset if you interrupt them while they're explaining a problem and you start offering a solution without hearing them out. Avoid negative questions or statements. They can create confusion. It is clearer if you phrase the question positively or ask an open ended question. Your customers are more interested in your capabilities than your limitations. In other words, they're interested in what you can do rather than what you cannot do. The way you convey things influences how they perceive you and your designated area of responsibility. You can either be perceived as a roadblock or a partner, and this depends on your communication skills. In case you are in the engineering industry, irrespective of your area of expertise or line of work, always be sensitive to differences in technical knowledge. Your customers and clients may not be as adept at understanding the intricacies of the subject. Therefore, be careful when explaining things to them. If you use acronyms, ensure that the full meaning of the acronym is also mentioned. The same acronym can mean different things even within the same industry. For communicating successfully, the following points should always be kept in mind. Listen carefully when spoken to. Allow your conversational partners to speak as well. Do not try to hoard the conversation, even if your nature is such. Respect the other person's point of view. She or he may have something rather significant and important to add to the conversation. Concentrate on the conversation. Only hearing instead of listening can make you miss out on vital information. Therefore, it is important to listen carefully instead of trying to process your response while the other person is still speaking. Preferably, take notes, especially if your concentration wavers or when you have several appointments through the day. Convey what you want to concisely. Wasting time and stalling conversations just to put your point of view across aggressively only results in the subject matter getting diluted. Evaluate your own questions and ensure that your answers make sense to both yourself and your audience. Do this before you start speaking. Convey the most important points first. The rest can always follow. This way, at the end of your presentation, even if you have a tired audience, your message has already sunk in. Think before you speak. Paying attention to what you want to say increases your chances of persuading others to accept your point of view. It also decreases the chances of a mistake or a social blunder. Master your subject matter. It is pointless to take the stage unless you know what you want to or need to communicate. Therefore, your research has to be faultless and your approach simplistic, especially if the point of discussion is unfamiliar to the audience. At no point should you fail to respond to questions or appear clueless about the discussion at hand. If you cannot convince your colleagues, there is no way your clients are going to be persuaded by your sales pitch. Most importantly, you need to sound convincing enough to yourself. Even the slightest lack of confidence shows through in a public forum. Always pause, think, and consider what you want to say, and select the appropriate words that express your message clearly. The tone of your conversation is important, so decide on it beforehand. Know your audience. Find out about your clients and their requirements and their level of understanding on the subject to be discussed, so you are not caught off guard at any point of time. Speak in a fashion that can be easily comprehended by others. Communicate effectively with your audience so that you appreciate their point of view rather than indulging in a self centric conversation. Ask questions. This ensures that your message has reached the audience. This also improves your understanding of market needs. Let your questions be open ended and frame them tactfully. Rephrase questions or responses for the listener in order to ensure shared understanding. Offer your views, if they differ, in the form of alternatives or suggestions for your audience to evaluate. Define terminology so there is no scope of misunderstanding. Judge every parameter before you jump to conclusions. Believe in your message. Always repeat major points. Basically, ensure that your message has reached your target audience.